In this part, we want to make this bouncing ball project together. This exercise is one of the most important exercises that every animator should know with any program that animates. There are several rules of animation in this exercise that we will discuss together. Squash and stretch is one of the most important rules of animation. When the ball hits the trampoline, squash happens, and when it moves up, it stretches. You can read about this rule on one of the pages of the book of Animator Survival Kit written by Richard Williams. As you can see, this ball stretches when it wants to hit the ground. When it hits the ground, the squash happens, and again it stretches. We want to implement the same rule in the After Effects. As you can see, the ball stretches when it moves down. When it hits the trampoline, the squash happens and stretches again when it moves up. When the ball reaches its highest point, it is normal. To start, I will create a new project to teach you this from scratch. Create a new composition with full HD size and white color. To draw a ball, I use the ellipse tool. And in this way, I draw a circle by holding Shift. I give it a fill color and remove its stroke. We can use another circle for inside of the ball to look better. But before that, we have to move its anchor point and place it under the ball. You will understand the reason later. Press Y and click on the layer. Move the anchor point. By holding Ctrl, the anchor point will be attached exactly to the bottom of the ball. The reason for this is because I want to implement a squash and a stretch. I don't want it to be stretched from the middle. Now, as this layer is selected, draw a circle inside the circle. Hold Shift as well. You can move the circle by holding space. Set fill color to none and stroke to solid. You can adjust the stroke size as you wish. Open this section, open the stroke. I activate dash and increase its value. To eliminate the broken parts, put this line cap on round cap. I want to have a small part of this line. I use the trim pad effect. I change the start value. For example, I want to have this much line. I also change the offset and put this line here. This line is to create the light mode on the ball. I will also reduce the opacity of this line a little. In the transform section, I decrease the opacity option. Now we have a ball with the light reflected inside it. Select this layer. Hit S, hold Shift and press P to add position. Create a keyframe for both layers. Now we have to animate this ball. For example, I want the ball to move to the ground in 1 second. I move the CTI to second 1. Create a keyframe for scale and position. In the middle of these two frames, for example frame 13, I move the ball downwards, where the ball hits the ground. Like this. Select these keyframes and press F9 to make them easy. Now if you look carefully, you cannot feel the ball hitting the ground. Here I hit N and limit the work area. Press space. In order to make the viewer feel the impact of the ball, we need to change the speed of the ball in the graph editor. Select these two keyframes and open the graph editor. Zoom in on the graph editor. Click on this point and drag it to the right using these handles. I also click on this point and drag it to the left. Now if we play the animation, it will be better, but we still need to work on it. I also click on this middle part and drag this handle to the right. Click on this handle and drag it to the left. Try to align these two curves. Now there is a feeling of hitting the ground with this curve. Close the graph editor. This ball hitting is wrong because we cannot see squash and stretch rule here. As I said, the ball stretches before it hits the ground and squashes when it hits the ground. 2 frames before the ball hits the ground. Here for example, I'm going to disable this chain. Set X to 80 and Y to 120. If you subtract 20 frames from X-axis, you must add 20 to the Y-axis. Because the volume is constant, it is only transferred from one place to another. This is one of the laws of physics that is also used in animation. Move the CTI. In this frame, the ball should be squashed. I set this number to 120 and set Y to 80. 20 numbers were added to X and 20 numbers were subtracted from Y. 2 frames later, I can copy this frame. Ctrl C and Ctrl V. When it moves up, the ball is normal. Then it returns to the first frame. And this process is repeated again. Now we have such an animation. I have to make these keyframes easy. To make this ball more natural and better, open the graph editor. Click on this point and drag it to the right. I do the same for the green curve. I drag it to the right. I do the same for the graph on the right. Click on this point and drag it to the left. Do this for the green graph as well. Now if you look carefully, the movement of the ball has become much more natural and we are feeling of hitting the ground. We want to create a trampoline. Select the pen tool, choose a color for the stroke, for example dark blue. Draw a ruler the moment the ball hits the ground. Press Ctrl R. And this way I draw a ruler. Draw a straight line like this on the line. Hold Shift as well. Increase the stroke size. Click the middle of this line with the pen tool to create a point. I want the edge of the lines to be soft. In the stroke section, put the butt cap on the round cap. Now I want to animate the path. Open the path and click on the stopwatch to create a keyframe. 1 frame before this frame, I create a keyframe. In this frame, when the ball hits the trampoline, This line should bend. To do this, this point must be converted to a handle. Select the Convert Vertex tool and click once on this point, so that the handles appear. Select the Pen tool again and click on this point while holding Shift. This will select only this midpoint. Move this point and create a curve like below. In this frame, move this line a little higher. Hit P and move it up a bit on the Y-axis. You see, when the ball hits the trampoline, it bends. You can bend this line more. Move this ruler so that it doesn't stick and I bend it like this. When the ball hits the trampoline, it gets a little smaller. Hold Shift and click on this point and make it smaller. I do the same for the left side. Copy this keyframe with Ctrl C. Move 2 frames forward and paste the keyframe. In this frame, the trampoline must move upwards. Click on this point with the Convert Vertex tool to make the handles appear. Then with the Pen tool and holding Shift, click on the middle point and move it upwards. Two frames later, I lower this point. But it should be higher than this one. The further it goes, the energy of the trampoline decreases and a bounce is created. 2 frames later, I move it up. And finally, it becomes a straight line that I can copy from the first frame. If I play the animation, you can see that we created a bounce mode on the trampoline. Select these keyframes and hit F9 to make them easy ease. We can also draw a line for the bases. Press F2 so that no layer is selected. With the Pen tool, draw a line like below. Hold Shift to draw a straight line. You can also change its color. For example, choose this one. I also move the base layer below the layer of the trampoline. In the stroke section, set the line cap to round cap. So that these parts are rounded. Now it's time to animate this base. Exactly where the trampoline bends, I need to create a keyframe in the path. We have to animate these bases based on the movement of the trampoline. Exactly where the trampoline bends, I need to move this base. Click on this point with the Pen tool and holding Shift. And move it like this. In this frame, I have to move the base again and place it here. Copy the first keyframe and move it a little. To be able to move this line, it must be blue inside. If it's not blue, hold Shift and click on this point to make it blue. And you are able to move it. As the trampoline moves, this base also moves. This is how I move this point. Finally, copy the first frame and paste it here. Select these keyframes and press F9. As you can see, we animated the right base. We can copy this base for the left side as well. Click on the layer and copy it with Ctrl D. To flip it, right-click on it and select Flip Horizontal from the Transform section. With the Move tool and holding Shift, you can move this base a little and put it in its proper place. Well, the trampoline animation is over. You saw how easily we were able to create this animation using the After Effects tools you learned so far. Be sure to practice and send me your exercises. I hope you enjoyed watching this tutorial as well.